your top 5 coin making concepts that we used in Madden 23 that we will inevitably use in Madden 24. This is sort of going to be a remembrance of the Madden 23 market as we go back and look at the most popular ways we made coins throughout the year. Starting out at number 5, we have Part 2 investing. How it sounds is pretty much how it is in each of the most popular promos that Madden releases throughout the year. There are usually multiple parts to that promo. Think Most Feared Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Harvest Part 1, Part 2. You had Zero Chill that went all the way up to 4 or 5 parts, I believe, throughout their release. Now, the unique thing that, or I wouldn't really say unique thing they do, more of the predictable thing that Madden does is that in each of the releases, the set pieces are all the same overall. So, for example, during Most Feared Part 1, you had mid overalls that were 87 overalls that went into 90 overall heroes that eventually made 93 overall champions. In Part 2 of Most Feared, it was the same overall structure, meaning you could use Part 1 heroes in Part 2 champion sets. Simply put, you would just buy your Part 1 either you would choose the middle tier cards or the heroes more. That's what I used more throughout the year. You would buy the heroes, over the weekend after Part 1, hype kind of died off, and then when Part 2 inevitably released, those cards would rise in price, at least for the first few hours of the Part 2 promo. That was kind of the only negative thing about Part 2 investing, is you kind of had to be on when the content did drop for Part 2 or Part 3. There was a short window in which the cards would actually be at an inflated price. The best example I could give, because I didn't use this much throughout the year, there isn't really that much of a ceiling with this type of investments, more just super consistent with the structures that promos get released. But stocking stuffers in Zero Chill for Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. The price that I remember I was buying these stocking stuffers at was around 120 to 130k at their low. And then whenever a new Zero Chill part got released, you had a few hours when they were 155 to 170k. Again, you're not making a ton off of this investment, but it's just super consistent. And yeah, that's really that's the reason why it's number 5. It's not higher. Not real high upside, but a super consistent way to make coins on a week-to-week basis. Moving on to number 4, we have LTD investing. Now, if it was Madden 22, LTD investing would probably be top 2 on this list for how much upside each LTD investment have and how consistent LTD investing was in Madden 22. But this was Madden 23, and there was 2 variables put into their market that had a really negative effect on how we made coins off. And the first one being their quick sell value went from 250k to 350k. Now, this didn't affect every LTD, but the bad LTDs, you would say, couldn't get down to a price where a lot of people could afford them. At minimum, you had to buy a 400k card and hope that they would go up in price. The other variable, and the main variable, which made LTD investing really something I only did in a certain situation, was that every LTD in some way or another was in a reroll. It was the cardinal sin for Madden 22 LTD investing. You didn't invest in reroll LTDs, but in Madden 23, when they added TVPs, almost every single LTD was in a reroll. And if they weren't, and they were a legend LTD like Bruce Matthews or Charles Tillman, they went for 2 or 3 million coins, and it was just out of everyone's price range. So LTD investing really wasn't good throughout the year. I think the sign of everything was the first LTDs, Jalen Hurts and DeMarcus Lawrence, they really didn't move that much in price for the first LTD release for the headliner program, and it was a sign of things to come throughout the year. But there was a few instances in a few situations where LTD investing made me a ton. You had the Blitz promo, you had Christmas morning, and you had Easter morning. All 3 of those days or situations had something in common, and that was people were looking to buy back their teams. How it all worked was that, in those 3 days, people are looking to buy back their teams because there's a lot of supply from 95% of the cards in the game. Why? Well, you have Blitz packs with a bunch of different varying offers. You have Presents, which are going to give out a ton of cards onto the market, and you have Easter morning with eggs, same thing as Christmas morning. So really, it is a smart time to buy back your team, but for certain cards that are not being supplied from these packs, eggs, or presents, they are going to skyrocket in price because the demand level for people buying back their teams is super high, but there is little to no supply. So think of, a common card has a ton of supply on Christmas morning, also met with a ton of demand sorry. But you have these LTDs which have a ton of demand, but 0 supply, meaning their price is going to skyrocket as long as they are a good LTD. For Christmas morning, for example, you had your Ghost LTDs, Antonio Cromartie, Kenneth Walker and Patrick Mahomes. I know Cromartie went from 650k to 1 million coins. Mahomes went from mid 500s all the way up to 800k, and Kenneth Walker went from the mid 400s all the way up to 700k. And honestly, Patrick Mahomes and Kenneth Walker weren't the best of cards, but it was Christmas morning and those were the newest LTDs, and people wanted them on their teams. You had the same thing that happened during Blitz with your Harvest LTDs like Zach Martin and Tariq Woolen. And then Easter, you had a spread of LTDs that kind of went up in price. Not actually the Sugar Rush players, but more so like Legend LTDs or Ultimate Legend LTDs went up in price a ton Easter morning. But that's LTD investing. Didn't really get used that much throughout the year, except for a few situations. Now on to number 3, we have oversupply investing. And this, I haven't really ever used this term on this channel at all, but that is going to be your AKA investing, or your team of the week investing. And oversupply investing is what it sounds like. There is an oversupply of a certain amount of card or a certain card. You are then going to buy that card because it is going to lower in price because of the oversupply. And then the days after that, the card is going to rebound to its normal price. It was something we did throughout the first half of the year. It was AKA Monday investing and team of the week Tuesday investing. The AKAs had a one-time, at least not for the new class. This was, again, for the first part of the year. The AKAs would refresh a one-time pack offer that would give either a hero or a champion version of whatever AKAs were in packs at the time. And, well, their market would free fall. On Monday afternoon, you would buy that card, and then just a few days later, the card would rebound to a normal price. Think of like 87 AKAs. They were going from 90k down to 65k. You'd buy them all up for 65k, then sell them for 85k to 90k just a few days later. On the turnaround on Team of the Week Tuesday, the same thing would happen, not with a reroll, but rather just, pack supply. Everyone opens packs on Team of the Week Tuesday, Team of the Week packs that is, and whatever the highest set piece was for whatever Team of the Week set that was that week would be at its cheapest Tuesday afternoon, because, that's when everyone opened packs. Like I said, you would buy that card up, think like 115 to 120k was the average price, and then a few days later, they would rise to 150 to 160k because there was no real pack supply. Supplying those Team of the Week cards back onto the market. Very, very consistent. And I think the main theme with oversupply investing is the more coins you could put in to these investments, the more you can make. So we were just constantly growing our stack throughout the first half of the year. Getting into the big dog methods or concepts. This one is not actually an investment, but rather high overall flipping. Flipping is a common term really that's used in every single way you make coins, where you buy a card for a low price, you then flip it for a high price. Flipping. Now, I made sure to put high overall flipping because I'm not a believer in low overall or middle tier flipping, because you just aren't making enough coins off each individual card for the amount of time you're putting in to buying these cards. But high overall flipping really is something that I focused on in the second half of the year, and it's something I'm really going to look into for Madden 24 for the entirety of the year, because it was making a killing on the high overall cards. The best example of this was leading up to Easter, where we were buying 96 and 97 overall cards that were training discard, the cheapest per their overall. Think AKA 96, 97s you're seeing on your screen. And then I would sell them at their unfiltered price, making 25k profit minimum per card. 96s I was buying for under 200k, selling for 250. And I think 97s I was buying for, actually I can't even remember 97s. I think it was like 340, selling for 3. I can't remember the 97 overall prices, but the 96 overall cards were something that I was just making a killing, right? It would take 20-30 minutes to buy 20 cards, and once those cards eventually sell, I guess you could say the one detail or caveat to this was I was listing these cards for a little bit more than what they were normally going for, and they would take sometimes a few listings for them to sell. But again, I was buying these cards for under 200k and then selling them for 250k, making 25k profit per card. You take that's 20 cards in 30 minutes. It's 500k profit once those cards eventually sell. Yeah, high overall flipping, there's not that much to explain. Buy low, sell high, but I really was only doing it with high overall cards because it made it worth it for the time spent sniping these pieces. But at number 1, I think you guys all know what it is going to be. We have got your loop. No, it's not loopholes. I know you probably thought I was going to say loopholes, but that's 4 hours or 2 hours, you could say 30 minutes each out of a 365-day calendar year, where you had to be super, super lucky, either unemployed, not at school, or a full-time Madden content creator like me and probably some other people, where you were actually able to get on and participate in the loopholes. I think I was 2 for 4, 2 for 5 throughout the entire year, with my first loophole being the Easter one, so I didn't really get to experience them until I was pretty much done with the market. But At number 1, now getting back to the actual number 1 in this video, in this list, it's going to be training investing. This was something implemented really and put on our plate by EA and then putting the TVP into the game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's some sort of genius strategy, 1000 IQ that only me and a handful of other people were doing throughout the year, which was you buy training or you buy an asset. I mean, you don't actually buy training, but rather you buy a card for coin value that has a set training amount you quick sell for, and then when training goes up, that card would rise in coin value because the value of training goes up. I guess you could say in 90 overall, that was quick selling for 10,000 training. If the value of training was at 5 per, it would go for 50,000 coins. If training rose up to 7 per, that would then rise to 70,000 coins. You sell the card on the market, you're making 13K profit after tax. But training investing, very simply, you would just buy training when there wasn't a TVP in the store and then sell when the TVP inevitably got put back into the game. There were some instances that didn't require or involve the TVPs being put in the game. I guess you could say when presents were going to be released during the Zero Chill promo during part 2 or part 3, I was buying a ton of training leading up to that, and then training went up when presents were released because they required training to reroll them. But for the most part, it was just TVPs throughout the year. Very, very simple. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You buy training and you would buy certain overalls when there wasn't a TVP in the store. TVP got put into the game and you would, sometimes double your entire investment's worth. And just not like part 2 investing, but rather oversupplied investing, number 3 on this list, the more coins you could put into this investment, the more you can make. And that's why you were able to see coin stacks really snowball throughout the second half of the year, because I was able to put, 50 million coins into a training investment and turn out 35 million coins profit after tax. And that's how really my coin amount went from, 115 mil after December all the way up to 300 mil just a few months later. But that's gonna be all for this list. Honestly, Madden 24, I actually don't expect training investing to be the main thing we do, because normally EA, kind of switches up how they do things. In Madden 22, the most popular way I was making coins was power-up investing. They took power-ups out of Madden 23. So if the trend continues, I think training is not going to be used that much, or there's not going to be big fluctuations with the market for Madden 24. The economist is always going to adjust the way he does things. But if you have any questions about Madden 23, of course, Madden 24, feel free to put them down in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new, and we're all ready for Madden 24. Like if you enjoyed, and until next time, peace.